doing? This is William Myers, Mantis Outdoors, and I'm bringing a video to you that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the Mantis SOSPES, a knife that I designed from LT Wright. They right now, currently, by the time this video posts, they are absolutely sold out of the models that are shipped ready to go. Right now, they are running a pre-order on run 2. I'm not sure exactly when this will post, but right now they're about 60 days out. So be a little bit less than that by the time this video gets posted up. But here is a sheath also from my buddy Zach Troutt at Tortuga Hard Cases, and he did a really good job on this sheath. You know, me and him were talking, and he was like, what do you think for sheath designs? And I was like, you know, an option, whether or not, you know, sometimes I want to just vertically carry, sometimes I like scout carry, so, you know, why don't we do something where it's a little bit of both. Now this is not my knife, this is Joe Castle's knife, and you know, he wanted a dangler on it. I'm not a huge fan of danglers myself, I don't like them. So we were talking about, you know, maybe adding like a leather strap around this side or something, you know what I mean? Just so you have 2 points of contact when you're scout carry, but you know, adding a tech lock on the back, you know, so you could, you got that option to, yep, messed up a little bit there. There we go. Locked it down before it was all the way closed, Joe. Alright, so I wanted a tech lock on the back, and you know, the reason why is because with a tech lock, it's just a couple screws that actually hold it to the sheath itself. Take those screws out, turn it, and put the screws back in. Now you're vertical carry. Vice versa, take screws out, flip it, now you're scout carry. You know, and then we were talking about, you know, obviously a 1/2 inch ferro rod, because a 1/2 inch ferro rod will take a 3/16 or, you know, even lower than that. Plus, you know, you can't get a smaller ferro rod loop to fit a big ferro rod loop. You can get a smaller ferro rod and a smaller ferro rod loop, obviously, you know. So I want a 1/2 inch ferro rod loop on there, just so if I'm running a 1/2 inch big ferro rod, I can put it on my knife. If I'm running something smaller, it'll still go in there. You know, these little Altoids tins, they're pretty convenient. I think Joe's got this full of pine resin at the moment. But you know, just for little fishing kits or little fire starting kits, something like that, something that's gonna be on your body at all times, you know. If worst comes to worst and, you know, I fall down a freaking mountain, or, you know, the what if ninjas come out and attack me and steal all my gear, something that's on my body is always gonna be on my body, like my knife. And then something that's attached to my knife is gonna be on that knife. Ferro rod, little fire starting kit, fishing kit, etc., etc. You're never going to be able to fit every single thing you need in one of these little tins, but a little tiny convenience item is nice to have. So the sheath is well made. You know, it's got great retention, got a great snap, great lock, no rattle, nothing's coming out. This knife is definitely not coming out no matter what. You know, it's got a little thumb ramp just for ease of exiting. And even the same goes for putting the knife back in, just grabbing the end of that thumb loop or thumb ramp and just giving you a little extra force for putting the knife away. So all in all, sheath has good lines, good production, nice buffing, everything looks really good, and I like it a lot. So Zach definitely did a good job on the on this sheath here. All right guys, so onto the knife. You know, I designed this knife after a French trade style knife. You know, I wanted a nice 5.5 inch or so, 5 3/4 inch is what this is, French trade style blade. And you know, when I say French trade style blade, you know, I went back to historical pictures and photos of old French trade style knives, and I seen how they were modeled, and you know, I like that style. You know, French trade knife is one of my favorite styles of knife when it comes to bushcraft. I mean, it looks almost like an old, you know, butcher's knife or kitchen knife, and that's what they used to do. They used to, you know, take their kitchen knives, you know, with them, and that's what they would use. But you know, the flat cutting edge, you know, it doesn't swoop, have any kind of an uptake or anything like that until almost to the end. So you have a good 4 inches of cutting surface that's flat, straight, and I really appreciate that when it comes to you know, carving, bushcraft tasks, things like that. Normal French trade knives kind of don't exactly have this point to it. This is kind of a little bit of an augmentation to a French trade style knife, but I wanted the point to come in line exact center to the handle. That way, you know, if I'm drilling or anything like that, I'm going to be able to make a nice even hole, things like that. You know, other than that, it's pretty much just a normal French trade style knife. It's a little bit bigger than some of what's on the market right now, but I wanted that so it could take on a little bit bigger tasks. You know, what this is meant for is a main knife, a main belt knife, something to be on your side and take the really big tasks, and you know, it can do the smaller tasks as well. This high Scandi makes the grind at the grind very thin, so I mean, it holds an edge very well. Joe can attest to that. This is his knife actually. He's been using it for about a week now.
Beating on it about a week, yeah.
And so, you know, that high Scandi makes at the Scandi edge, at the very edge of the grind, makes it really thin. So it's really good for getting into smaller, thinner areas and things like that. So it can do the small tasks as well as the big tasks. You know, other than that, this knife is meant to be accompanied by, you know, a companion blade. You know, spoiler alert, that might be coming out very soon. But you know, it's got a 90-degree spine on it to a point right about an inch before the handle. It's not exactly 90 degrees, it's rounded just a little bit, and that's for thumb assist. And you know, we had a discussion not too long ago on Facebook about why that was. And you know, when you're cutting, when you're carving, I'll go ahead and do this right here. Yeah, you're gonna probably have to get up a little bit. Give me that baton beside you. There's how you there. Okay, split this out a little. You know, when I'm doing like big cuts like this, as you see, I have a closed grip. You know, my thumb's wrapped around, the knife's not going to go anywhere. I'm not opening my grip. You know, if you're cutting like this, one, you're opening your grip, and two, it almost forces you to cut out here, because if you're cutting in here, what's going to happen? You know, maybe a splinter comes up, jabs you in the thumb, goes through your thumb, something like that. That's not good. You always want to cut big cuts, big slices with a closed grip, just like this. But if I'm doing like, say, a notch, just do it on this side. So if I'm doing a notch, you know, when I first start my notch, I don't want to just, you know, hold this closed grip and come in, even though I can, see. Once I get to that end, it might pop off that end, and what could happen is I just go right straight through, and I don't want that, right? So what I do is I use a thumb assist almost like a brake, which means I'll take and I'll put my thumb on top of the spine, and I'll put another thumb on top of it, and that just helps me guide the knife to where I can stop it right there, and I'm not going to pop through that top of that notch, things like that. Plus, it gives me a little bit of power behind it. Then I can come in here once I'm you know, sure that if, you know, I close grip, I'm not going to bust through that notch. I can come back to a closed grip and take big hunks of meat out of that notch. See, that's one reason why I wanted that high Scandi, that real high ground Scandi on top there, because with some, you know, this is a 3/16 inch knife, you know, it's not exactly skinny. So with a lower Scandi, how thick the blade is might be kind of cumbersome to get into those little tight spots, you know, for cleaning up notches and things like that. But with a high Scandi, it makes that grind at the grind pretty thin. So that's basically the reasoning for kind of almost rounding. It's not exactly round. It'll still strike a ferro rod exactly, but it's a little bit more comfortable than an absolute 90-degree edge up here for your thumb, just for those little tiny fine tasks, you know, with a thumb assist right up here. You know what I mean? So, you know, we had a little bit of a discussion about that, and, you know, any questions that anybody has, I'm more than happy to answer any of them. You know, even though this is a bigger blade, you know, the smaller things that, you know, real fine tasks like feather sticking and things like that, it's gonna be really conducive for, you know, taking really fine edges out, taking real good detail out of wood, things like that. This knife is definitely going to excel at things like that. It's extremely comfortable due to the handle being swelled up as much as it is. That's one thing that I really wanted to stress on the handle, is that it was comfortable for me to work with for an extremely long amount of times, because, you know, I work with knives, you know, I just don't pull a knife out and, you know, cut a piece of rope with it. You know, I work with, especially my main knife, I'll work with it sometimes 2.5 hours at a sitting. Depends on what I'm making. You know, I just really wanted to make sure that I could sit down and work with a comfortable blade for a long time and not have to worry about my hand cramping up or anything like that. As you see, this makes beautiful ribbons. Yeah, the funny thing about this knife is, at this point, I made it for me. I don't even have one yet. I didn't want to, you know, I'll get one eventually, but, you know, I didn't want to get one of the first runs, because, you know, a lot of people really wanted to get the first run, you know, one of the first runs, and I was like, well, basically the one that's mine is the prototype, and LT needs that to shape handles and things like that, so I'll get it back eventually. Yeah, I don't even want to give this one back. I'm just having so much fun. You know, just kind of sitting here making feather sticks.
Oh, no, that one's not going home with you.
Yeah, a couple of seconds and nice feathers.
Yeah, if you can't start a fire with that, just put it back in the box and go home.
So it can be a little tricky sometimes to get feathers to light with, like, ferro rods and things like that. It does take a little bit of technique. It just runs on wood so good. That grind, LT did a wonderful job getting that grind. Really symmetrical on both sides. Nice deep Scandi.
You guys weren't able to publish the one video we did with the prototype, were you?
No, that's when I had that on my hard drive, and my hard drive burnt out, so I wasn't able to get, I lost like 6 videos.
Me and Andy Lundberg got to toy with the prototype, and both of us, while feathering and playing with this knife down in southern Ohio, just thought, you know, this literally, I mean, and this is absolutely a testimony to the quality of it, of the design and the make. This knife is for anybody, especially a new person. Like, oh, I can't feather. If you can't feather with this knife, after playing with it for a little bit, there's, you know, it's amazing. As, like Will said, you catch your grind so easy going the feathers. And
well, yeah, that's another reason why it's Scandi ground. You know, saber grinds and, you know, flat grinds, hollow grinds, things like that, it's harder to find the grind. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is, if I lay this flat and I'm rubbing back and forth, I'm not on the grind yet. But if I just, and you can feel it with, especially this high Scandi, you just kind of, you know, pitch it just a little bit and you feel it right there. There's the grind. And you can barely even just push.
Absolutely.
And you get a nice curl. So I just pitch it down just a little bit, find that edge, just roll it straight down that curl. You know, and feather sticking, another thing with this knife is it's very easy for me to control my feathers as well. I can run them straight down, absolutely right on top of each other, just like that. or I could pitch it and run it to the right. You see the net curl runs to the right. Or I can, vice versa, pitch it up, and now I want my curl to run to the left. You know, so, you know, if I'm making a feather stick for a certain reason, you know, I can really balloon out that feather just by pushing that knife the way that I want it. And then come back the other way and put some feathers on the other side. You know, nice little feather stick there.
Absolutely.
You know, obviously people want to see it's a big blade. They want to see it doing the bigger task. So down here we have, looks like a seasoned, not 100%, I didn't cut this wood, but it looks like a nice seasoned oak, to be honest with you. Nice red color.
It could definitely be oak. Most of our wood's got about 14 months on it right now, so it's well seasoned.
So
see, and that's one of the things I like about that thickness. You can take that thing and you can split your wood with it. Like, you get down there, you got 3/4 of the way, and all you did was turn the blade over and poop.
yeah, well, I do that because I don't really want, when I'm batoning, I want to get that cut that I want out, you know, because I want to make a certain craft or whatever. So I want that perfect cut out, but I don't want my blade to be bouncing off whatever I'm batoning off of, you know. So I'll come down about 3/4 of the way and then just wedge my knife over to pop that piece off, the piece of waste that I'm not using. Nice piece right there. This would make a great sparing. You know, obviously, you know, a lot of tests that we do, we test the spine, you know, and having a spine that has utilitarian use is key to me. And, you know, everybody, the one thing people were kind of, you know, questioning is the rounded over spine right an inch before the handle. You know, just because it isn't as a rough of a 90-degree spine as the rest of the spine is itself, it's still more than capable of popping sparks. You know, it's just you do get a little bit more when you come up the spine a little. Alright, so one of the reasons why I made it like this, and not, you know, no offense to any other knife makers out there or anything like that, but no kind of like recesses or, you know, big convexes out here or anything like that, is because I wanted a nice flat cutting surface. And I wanted the surface as long as I possibly could before it started to make its arc to meet the tip. And one of the reasons why that was is for planing. You know, I wanted a nice flat surface here. If you see, you know, when you're planing out wood, you know, you can see that whatever is raised, whatever not exactly flat, that's what I'm going to be catching at that time. So I want to get a nice big flat blade so that I can make really big cuts. See, now this part is raised and that part's raised, so I'm coming down the wood, you know, slowly making my way down the ridges of this wood to get a nice flat surface. You know, if I had some kind of recess blade, I wouldn't get that. See, now I'm catching more of the wood. See, it's flattening out now. You know, if I had some other kind of a grind on here, or even another shape on here, I would have to, here, I'll do another example. You know, if I had some kind of other grind on here, I'd have to, you know, come over to this side of whatever I was working with, get that flattened down, then come over here and work on this side. You know, with a nice flat blade, I'm able to plane out and get my piece as flat as possible and as efficiently as possible. You see, now that I'm flat, I'm taking that huge chunks out at once and making a nice flat board. Can you grab that chunk for me there? Oh, busted in half. Right by your, right there. No, there you go. You know, we started out with just grabbing a little tiny piece of the wood over here, and then, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 cuts later, we're grabbing this big, huge piece of chunk because we're getting level on the piece of wood that we're making. So now we're down to a flat board at this point. And that's why I keep telling, you know, people that ask me, hey, what do you think about this knife? What do you think about that knife? It's always hard for me to criticize other people's work, because it's just not who I am. It's not how I am. And that's somebody's hard work. Somebody put a lot of time and effort into designing that blade. But, you know, personally for me, you know, if a blade has any kind of recess in it or anything like that, you know, it just makes it difficult. It's not as efficient as a flat blade for doing some things. Some things it might excel in. So, something like this, like flattening out boards for projects and things like that, bushcraft, it's not exactly as efficient as a flat, straight edge. You know, all the things that we've been doing to this knife today, we've been working with this for several hours, you know, trying to see what the edge is going to do, see if we can't roll the edge and things like that. And, you know, right now it's still pretty nice and sharp. You know, I'm sure that we could dull it out. It's 01 tool steel, so, you know, it doesn't hold an edge as long as some of the other super steels and things like that. That being said, I can bring an edge back on this a lot faster than some other, like, you know, CMP 3V, or did I say that right? CPM 3V, something like that. I don't know. You know, super steel, super hard steels, it might be a little bit harder to bring an edge on. Some of the, like some of the Bark River knives hold an edge just forever, but you really got to pay attention to them, because if you let them go too far, it can take a little bit of work to get them back to an appropriate edge. You know, it's not impossible, but it's not as easy to field sharpen, I guess I could say, as like some softer steels like 01 to 90. There you go. Alright guys, well, it's been William Myers, Mantis Outdoors. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, there's some more of my previous videos that are playing in the screens to my left right now. There's also a subscribe button over there. If you haven't done so, I appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. To stay up to date with what I'm doing with my school and the YouTube channel, stay posted on the videos that are going to be uploaded. You can go to www.facebook.com/Mantis Outdoors, or you can go to www.mantisoutdoorsllc.com. Liking my videos helps me and my channel out a lot. I appreciate all your views, comments, and support, and hopefully we'll see you out in the woods.